certification.
I can.
Most probably. Okay, we are going to get started again. I would like to call this Madison School Board meeting back to order at 7 o'clock on July the 15th, 2024. We have a few business items to take care of, and one is the certification of the closed meeting.
Whereas the Madison County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, therefore be it resolved that the Madison County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, number one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification applies, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
All right, we have a motion. We need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Patterson, will you call roll, please?
Mr. Marks?
I certify.
Mr. Sheets?
I certify.
Mrs. Wood?
I certify.
Mrs. Collier?
I certify. All right, the next agenda item is the pledge. We invite you to join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we will have a moment of silence. Okey doke. All right, our next agenda item is to approve the personnel matters and addendum for July the 17th, 2023, to include appointments, resignations, substitute appointments, sponsor stipends, coaching stipends, and substitute reappointments as presented. Can I get a motion for that?
Motion to approve as submitted.
We have a motion. We need a second.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any noes? Motion carries. So with that motion, we would like to announce one thing we just did. We just approved the new principal for the Madison County High School. And we had an extensive process for that principal position. We had 11 candidates apply. We had 7 interviews, face-to-face interviews, and 3 second-round interviews with the superintendent and the assistant superintendent and myself. And we have one person that came out on top. And I would just like to read to you guys who this person is. So we welcome Miss Melissa Clore-Taylor as the new MCHS principal. We just unanimously voted on that. Ms. Taylor has served Madison, Orange, and Prince William County Public Schools students. She began her career as a math teacher at William Wetzel Middle School in 1996, and then transferred to the high school where she taught science. While teaching, she served as department chairperson, cheerleading coach, and writer of the science curricula. She next taught 7th grade in Prince William County Public Schools during the 2016-2017 school year. Following her passion for students with disabilities, she taught special education at Orange County High School and became the assistant principal, where she has served from 2019 to present. While serving 5 years on the administrative team at Orange County High School, she worked with the team and the staff to address systematic practices perpetuating the achievement gaps for students with disabilities and English language learners. She also has a passion for growing the career and technical education programs by collaborating with community members and sharing resources. Superintendent Anna Graham stated, "We are thrilled to welcome Ms. Taylor as the new principal of Madison County High School. Her passion for education and dedication to student success make her the perfect leader for our high school. We welcome her back home to Madison County and look forward to the positive impact she will have on our students, staff, and the community." Assistant Superintendent Kathy Jones stated, "We are extremely fortunate to have someone as skilled as Ms. Taylor who has dedicated herself to enhancing the academic achievement of high school students she supports. Her enthusiasm for returning home to Madison is a testament to her commitment and passion." Taylor stated, "I am completely honored to return to Madison and look forward to building upon the rich culture of the Madison community, celebrating its strengths and talents. The new principal will take her leadership role in July, and she plans to share her 90-day action plan with the Mountaineer community in the very near future." She concluded, "I've spent time in Madison schools as a student and teacher, but now I get to experience it as an educational leader. It is time to give back to the community that gave me this glorious start in this educational journey." Ms. Taylor received her Bachelor's of Science in Biology from Radford University. She received a Master's of Arts in Teaching with the emphasis in Special Education K-12 from Liberty University, and a Postmaster's School Leadership and Administration endorsement from Longwood University. Welcome back, Lisa. Do you have anything to say? Not to put you on the spot, but. Yay. Welcome home. It's fine with me, sure. And I have the press release if you want it. You have it? Okay, perfect. Okey doke, that was fun. All right, the next agenda item is our consent agenda. Yes. Our next item is the consent agenda, and that is to approve the July 15th, 2024 consent agenda as presented. That includes claims, operating expenses, food services, CIP, supplemental appropriation, expenditure report, and school board meeting minutes dated May 13th, June the 10th, and June the 27th, 2024. I will open the floor for a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion. We need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any noes? Motion carries. All right, our next agenda item is public comment. We welcome public comment. We ask that you come to the podium, state your name and the area of the community that you live in, and you'll have 3 minutes to tell us what we need to know.
It's hard to believe, I'm sorry, Russell Biber, Brightwood. It's hard to believe that the school year is about to begin again. And I'd like to, first of all, ask, I see Mr. Wingate's not here. Perhaps he would be the one that would need to answer the question, or maybe someone else can. There was a search being done for curriculum that was neither to the left nor to the right, just neutral, and that sort of thing. And I was wondering, I haven't heard anything about that in some time, and I didn't know if something had been secured, and just wondering about that. Because one of the things, as you know, I pray, and I've been praying that that curriculum would be found, that the Lord would direct the Board of Supervisors, the school board rather, to, to locate that. And so during the after comments, if someone could tell about that. But I'd also like to pray for this upcoming school year. And would you pray with me, please? Our Heavenly Father, we do thank you so much for your goodness and for your mercy and for your grace. We thank you for being such a personal God. Lord, we pray that you would bless the upcoming school year. Father, I pray for safety. I pray that you would be with each student, with each teacher, with each administrator, with the building staff and the school staff. Lord, I pray that it would be a terrific year, a year where learning takes place, a year where advancement is done. Lord, thank you for the acquisition of a new principal. I pray that you would bless her, give her the wisdom that she needs. Again, we thank you for your goodness and your grace, and most of all, your mercy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know I think we're going to have to talk to Mr. Wingate, and he is on vacation this week, so we'll certainly get back with you.
In each of our schools, we'll be presenting on character education once the school year starts. But the name that the elementary schools have adopted is, I think it's Positivity Project.
I'm Mike Sharman from the Novum area of Madison. So the book I'm passing out to you, I'd done a first edition of it when President Clinton was elected, and then continued it through George W., his first term. Don't worry that I'm not, or don't worry if you think I might be advertising myself. I'm not. That's been out of print for a while. I just gave you some that I had in my basement. Obviously, the reason for doing this is the assassination attempt against former President Trump this past weekend. You notice the red tabs are our presidents who were assassinated. The blue tabs are those that had assassination attempts against them in which they actually faced the assassin. There were quite more assassination attempts that, in which they didn't even know it at the time, the president didn't. What I want you to get out of this is twofold, really. One is, as you notice as you go through, this is about the president's inaugural addresses, but I ellipsed out, I cut out all the politics, and only left in the words of faith and religion. You'll notice that we've never had a president who did not, in his first official act, which is the inauguration, recognize God and God of the Bible, and God of the Bible is sovereign over our nation. And even though I stopped writing this with George W., it's continued on through. President Obama, President Trump, and President Biden all did. Now, these are men of various stripes, of course. And we've had, even though people always talk, we don't want it, but we have had political violence, as you can see, throughout our history. But what's kept us steady? Our foundations and the people's prayers, and the fact that we are a Christian nation, even though perhaps many of these presidents were not really true to what they were saying. But God heard the people, and he recognized that, and he's blessed us accordingly. As you look toward what you're doing this school year, you kind of recognize what happened with that assassin, that attempted assassin. He was a good student. He even got awards. He never had discipline problems in high school. But he also obviously was ignorant of the important things, just civic virtues, or as the superintendent mentioned, just character education. And perhaps he didn't have the prayers of the leaders and the people surrounding him. So I appreciate Pastor Russell, of him coming up and praying for you every time. And I pray that you would return the favor to the community and the students, that each morning you'd be praying for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the board? It's July. It's okay. All right. The next agenda item is our facilities update, and I believe Dr. Timmons is going to come talk to us a little bit.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening,
Good
everybody.
evening.
I appreciate the time to come up and give you the facilities report for Madison County Public Schools tonight. We're going to start talking about water testing and water quality in our schools. It's becoming more of a hot topic as the regulations are getting ready to change. More regulations are coming into effect. Right now, they're quite nebulous. All we've got is what we think is going to happen, but I'm going to go through this and just stop me if you have questions. So water testing, it began out of SOUP's memo on 6/9/2017, and all school divisions were required to test their drinking water for lead. I was able to go back and find Madison's reporting at the time it was done. At the time that was done, I was in Culpeper, we were doing the same thing. So everybody across the state of Virginia kind of was rushing to get their water sources tested with not a lot of guidance. The threshold for lead used to be 15 parts per billion. It is now changing to 10 parts per billion. The lab reports I found were dated in August 2017, which is the time that memo came out. So due diligence was done at that time. I found that 5 areas were above the threshold. All of those were in one school, Madison Primary School, but then I found where they were remediated and retested in September of 2017. By doing some research, talking to the folks that were here, basically what happened is the old fountains were pulled out, water fountains were pulled out and replaced with new fountains and then retested. And from my experience at my last position, the same thing happened where I was. We had several more than that test higher than what should have been, but we had to replace faucets and then retest them, and that usually took care of the problem. Questions on that? Okay, next slide. So I won't read through all this, but so what this is saying, the provisions of this code, it says do not apply to a child care facility that's already regulated as a public water system. It does apply to a community waterworks that serves water, a school, child care facility. So what we think is going to happen, and RSA think is going to happen, that the burden is going to be put back on them to kind of lead this testing. And that's not for sure. So everything I'm telling you is what we know now, and there's a lot of caveats and warnings to say this could change, this could change. So what I'm telling you now may not be what I tell you in October. I just want to say that clearly. The list of schools and child care facilities is due no later than October 16th, 2024. And from my understanding, RSA has to provide that, and they know the schools in their service area. We do not operate our own waterworks system, so we don't have to do, we don't have to worry about our own waterworks. Our water comes from RSA, and they do their testing, all kinds of different testing at their site. Okay. Next slide. So this is the anticipated lead and copper rule timeline. Again, it's pretty in-depth, but you see the October 16th, and then it goes out to October 2037. And this is what they're thinking is going to happen. It hasn't all been solidified yet, so these rules could change. I'll just give you a minute to kind of look through that. And here you'll see 15 parts per billion, where I said 10. So even the language, depending on where you read it, is different. So is it going to be 10? Is it going to be 15? Right now, we're working under the assumption that it's going to be 10. Okay, next slide. So I spoke with RSA and one of their main operators. So according to them, the LCRI is expected to be finalized by October of this year. Most likely, they say the clock for RSA will start ticking in 2027. Between 2028 and 2032, we should sample at all elementary schools and child care facilities. The sampling at your facilities, this is to me, would be performed by your staff, but RSA would handle the administrative and testing burden. And that's what I talked to a counterpart of mine in Loudoun County that she actually, her job is to deal with this kind of thing. And as you know, Loudoun is a lot bigger. But so what would happen is RSA would come out and say, okay, we're going to give you the administrative part of it. We'll do all of that, and then you guys have to get it tested. We don't know how that's going to look yet, but some of the burden will fall on RSA. We're just not quite sure how it's going to look. And what I was told, in summary, we'll need to regroup and talk about our strategy 2028 and beyond. So I should know more in October. And I know I'm giving you a lot of, I don't know, but that's kind of what we're working with. Next slide. So this comes from the Hazen webinar. If you'll look at the top, it says 5 samples per school is what they're suggesting. 2 drinking fountains, a kitchen faucet, a classroom faucet, and a nurse's office faucet. Now, what I want to go back is, if we could go back before I finish this, go back to the water testing slide. Okay, one more, there you go. Actually, next. Right there. And it's, if you'll notice that last part where it says, fountains and sinks known to be visibly used for consumption. That's what they're talking about testing. Okay, so you got that little caveat. Now let's go back to the other slide. Okay, what does that say? Drinking fountains, kitchen faucet, classroom faucet, nurse's office faucet. Some of those things aren't used for drinking, so we're getting 2 different sets of what we should do here. Now, let me move back. So next slide. So in response, what Madison has already done, we've taken the Hazen slide, the 5 samples per school. We tested sites at each school according to the previous slide. 1 lab sink at Madison County High School came back high. That's one of the sinks that nobody drinks out of. It's in one of the science rooms. We're going to replace that faucet, even though it's not supposed to be, consumption water out of it. There was 1 unused fountain from at Alt Ed that came back high. The fountain had been shut off for years and should not have been tested, and it's still out of service. We shut it off because it had not been used in years. It hadn't been functioning properly, and they've always had the bottled water. And then we're going to continue to monitor requirements and work with RSA on the testing as required. And we'll test all the other water fountains. We had 24 samples done. 19 came back non-detectable, which what that means is it was not enough, or there was no lead in it, that the sampling equipment used by ESS could not detect any lead in it. It was well below what their machine would even could capture. So 19 out of the 24 came back that way. And then the other 3 were below the 10 parts per billion. And of course, I've told you about the other 2 and what we've done with those. So I'll stop there for a minute and let you digest that, see if I can answer any questions about that.
First of all, the 1 fountain that's out of service, is it any way we can just get that out?
Yes, sir, that's what we're going to do. We're going to cap it off.
Okay.
That's what should have been done, but when the ESS was told to test, they were supposed to do 2 fountains, and my guys tried to say, no, that fountain's never in use. Well, I was told to do 2, so, they were trying to follow orders. So it shouldn't have been tested because it's not been in use in years, from what I'm told.
What's the cost of a sample?
We did 24 samplings. It was a little over $2,000.
Okay. I'm not sure that the regulations, even the new ones coming, are probably as frequent as they need to be, just for safety precaution. Can we do it? I mean, obviously, I think we can, but are we willing to do it more frequently, once every 2 years or what have you, just to confirm, yes, we're still okay?
Sure, absolutely. And Mr. Sheed, you make a good point, because one of the rules here is saying, if we could go back to the Hazen slide, Harris. Water systems shall collect from at least 20% of schools and child care facilities. So every 5 years is what they think is coming out. So yes, and we could do more, absolutely, and absolutely. And at this point, we're getting ready to schedule doing all of the water fountains that are drinking fountains. And there are 61 of those. Okay. And that's going to be, it's a little over 3,000 for that.
Yeah, it's just like $85 a sample or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. If no questions on that, we're going to move to maintenance and projects. So I kind of wanted to go through and just show you, as I've done before, some sampling of the work done by your facility staff. This by no means captures it all, just some of the more interesting things where I was out and about with the guys and could take some pictures. So we'll move to the next slide. So that's a scene with a couple of guys at the school board office, and what they did was remove a barrier in the bathrooms and create a handicap accessible area for a female student at the school board office that was using our new athletic facility. The men's already had one, but for some reason the women's restroom didn't, so we've taken care of that. Over to your right, you'll see necessity, the sheds that have been there for a long time. The guys felt like they needed to add another shed door to make the sand and salt more accessible during the wintertime, so they did their own construction, put in an extra door. The bottom gray tank, that's the main water heater tank at Madison Primary School. We replaced that recently. And then the expansion tank there, that you see the little small gray tank, those are in each of the custodial closets that help with the water. They're starting to rust out, and so we're replacing those. We've done 2 this year so far. You see there I have elevated cleaning in quotes. Came in before middle school graduation. The guys are in the lift there, and they're cleaning the high spots that the custodians are not able to get. The next slide beside it, we have to set up the stage there every year for the Wetzel Middle School graduation. Below is a sink that was replaced in the cafeteria at the high school at request of the cafeteria manager. And then there's Mr. Armstrong way up in there at the Wetzel Middle School gym replacing a motor on the basketball goal. So these guys will do just about anything they can possibly do. I say site work, that's where gravel was added at the bus lot, and we took care of that. School safety, all of the lighting on Fairgrounds Road was replaced with LED lighting, and some updated equipment so that when the sun is not out for a period of time, we shouldn't have that problem again with the lights not coming on because they haven't received enough sun. So hopefully that's taking care of that problem. Down near the field house, there was some grounds work. Some trees had fallen across some of the fencing. And then at the bottom, a piece of new custodial equipment that was delivered to Wetzel Middle School to help with their cleaning. And as you know, our 2 big projects at the top, boiler replacement, you can see where the old 3 boilers were taken out, then they're sitting in the parking lot, and then down at the bottom, they're on site now and being hooked up. I would anticipate mid-August having that project closed out. They may have to wait till it gets a little colder to do some of the testing, so some of the things may be drawn out, but very good progress on that. And then that's just the final picture. The chiller project over at Waverly Out is closed out, and it's doing a great job. So thank the Board of Supervisors and the school board for doing that. That was a huge need.
Yeah, I came by while they were working one day, talked to the guys out here in the parking lot. I asked them if everything was going okay. Did they have everything they needed? Were we, helping however we could? He said, yep. He said, only issue we've got is people keep walking through the construction area. He says the kids, they just keep walking through. He said, they got a man on a forklift, and every time he goes to back up, there's somebody behind him. And so I made a quick email, and Dr. Timmons here, Mrs. Graham, everybody got on board, and it got taped off and kept them out of there. So
We add a little extra signage.
thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Okay, and then the next slide. If you remember, we switched work order management systems from School Dude to FMX. That system is doing a lot better, and it's a lot less expensive. So last year, 505 work orders. This year, we're up to 644. Some of that is probably just better use, and it's a better system to capture what we're doing. Now, in that number, that's not including mowing, snow removal, emergency calls that may not get put in, like my sink is leaking, it's running fast, come over, because at times, frankly, we'll forget to put that work order in because it's just done on the spot. And then things like the HVAC filter changes throughout the division. That's a job in and of itself several times a year. All the interior filters for HVAC, and then the ones on the rooftops. So that's a huge undertaking. A lot of school divisions actually sub that out, which is very expensive. So I'd like to, again, thank this board, Board of Supervisors, Superintendent, everybody involved that supports facilities. It's great. Things are going well, and appreciate all that you do, and would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
I have a quick question, and I don't know, it's just something that I have personally noticed.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
wanted to bring it to people's attention, and since you're here, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Every once in a while, I run around the track, and I know that there's a tree on the far side of the track where the roots are coming underneath it.
Okay.
And like, it's causing it to kind of bump up, and I know we just replaced the track recently. And so I just wanted to make sure that it's that 6th lane, and it's just, like, you can just, where the tree roots growing underneath it, and I don't want to ruin.
Is it a
the-
tree on our side, or?
I don't know what side of
Okay,
the fence the
okay.
tree is on. And I honestly, as somebody who runs in the heat, like, I'd hate to see it go because it does shade it, but at the same time, like, when it comes to, I mean, I just think I'm clumsy and I've almost fallen, but that's a me thing, but I wouldn't want it to happen to a kid at a track meet or things like that too. So-
We'll take a look, and we do have track replacement on our capital planning as well, so. On one last note, Mr. Sheeds, I know you had a question last time we talked about the valves at Waverly. That's going to be on, we've got a couple different pricing, and Ms. Graham and I, we're going to put that on the next capital planning agenda so we can discuss what the best to do with that. For right now, it's status quo, and it's doing okay. It's still leaking a little bit, but we're okay.
I just want to say thank you for undertaking as much as you and your guys can in-house, and, saving this. Anytime we have to go to outside vendor, the prices jumps exponentially.
It
So
does.
everything that we can handle in-house, thank you for taking it on. And I even would encourage, if there's any opportunity, and I know I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to also mention Mr. Sharman for bringing this up too, but if there's any possibility to include CTE class participants in any of this stuff, if anything, they might get involved with changing the filter and HVAC system and know that that's not something they want to do when
Right, yes, sir.
when they get out of school. But just getting hands-on, if there's any opportunity, I'd like to take advantage of it.
And we have put that out there and had a couple of takers, but we'll certainly try it again this year and see what we can do. On another note, though, we have a couple of our high school folks that are summer helpers for us, so they're getting to experience the whole summer with us.
That's good to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okey doke. We have 3 business approval items tonight. And the next business approval item is that list of policies that we've had for, I guess, about a month, right?
Correct.
To read over. And Ms. Graham has noted some things here. Do you have anything to add?
I can let you know the couple of changes
Okay.
that Mr. Wingate suggested on them. Most of them are minor, and I can read through them very quickly if you'd like.
Okay.
So on BDDH, which is also KD, it was corrected to reflect the fact that people do not need to sign up to speak the day before a meeting. So that was corrected in our policy. CLA added a line that the superintendent will report those incidents to the school board on an ongoing basis, which we do, but now it's in policy. GCL added a requirement for faculty and staff to annually review the board priorities in the division's character development program. We're coming up with a process for that. IA added the requirement to implement the character education program, so now it's just like in policy. IGAE removed the line regarding menstrual health education and added that line to the family life policy. So it's now in family life, and that policy's in there too. Sorry, I didn't write down the policy letters for family life, but it's in there. And then JO changed to say that Madison schools will provide a copy of the student's education record upon request. So those were the changes.
Do you have any questions?
No questions, but I do have one. There's one I wanted to look at. If we go to policy KJ, The others, you already took care of those, so I'm happy to see that, except for AC. I think we're going to try to do something different on AC. But policy KJ, when we look at that one, there was, part of that policy was commercial establishments whose source of revenue is the sale of intoxicants may not advertise in school publications, but that's being taken out. I'm not sure we want to take that out.
KJ.
Well, I personally don't want to take that out, I'll say it that way.
So a lot of times the policies just reflect the fact that it's not law. So we come across that a lot, and that's why a lot of times we choose to leave it in. So that's probably one of those cases.
Yeah, I mean, anybody else have any pause to leave it in there?
I know we have a handful of
Something special they call it.
beer facilities that make beer, Madison wine and whatnot. And I'm not, this isn't a stab at them, I don't think that we should have any type of alcoholic beverage advertisement in any school publications.
I'm trying to think if there's ever been a time where we have that I know of. Yeah, what would that be? Dr. Jones is bringing up, like, what about a restaurant that sells alcohol? Like, what would that be? No, I know, right? Like,
Well, I mean, a lot of the local.
But that's not the
That's a-
only revenue.
that's not their only
Yeah.
source
It's not
of
their
revenue,
only
then.
source of revenue.
Is that their main source? Yeah.
I know the sports teams will ask for donations. The football team's done it. I've done it with the baseball team and stuff like that, where if you donate so much, you get advertisements in the programs and things like that. If Bald Top or one of the wineries around, like, does that mean that we can't advertise those donations then as well? Like, I'm behind it, like, it's staying, but I don't know how to, because that could also be a source of fundraising to a certain extent too.
Would you like to set this one aside and us try to find maybe why this was changed?
Yeah,
It
I
wasn't
mean-
part of the, like, the webinar and the stuff we did, so it's not on my radar, so I would have to dig into it.
And the only thing they said on it was that
Policy changed, right?
Yeah.
So
So it
we can dig
probably
into it and see.
Isn't included in the state law.
That's usually when they
And the-
scratch stuff, is
yeah.
like, if you don't have to have it, it's removed.
But you
I'll
guys
look
can
in
dig
just to
into
make
it.
sure.
Okay.
I don't want to speak out of turn.
So we don't have to vote on that one tonight.
Right, if you want to just set it aside
So
and I
that
can
leaves
find
it as
out.
it is. Does that make sense?
That would be my suggestion.
Okay.
if you
Yeah.
wanna-
Well, so we'll leave that one as it
is.
is.
Okay.
Exclude JO. So when we make the.
KJ, KJ.
Yeah,
KJ.
I'm sorry, KJ. When we make the motion, whoever's making the motion, remember that. Exclude KJ. Okay. Do you have any more, Mr. Sheets?
No, that was the others, Mrs. Graham already mentioned,
Took
the
care.
BDDH. Yeah, I didn't even, and I'm sorry to say, I did not know that there was a policy saying that people had to submit a request to speak before the school board. That to me is, yeah, it goes outside of the public's rights. And then, yeah, and AC, we're going to revisit AC on another date, so, yeah, that was it.
Okay. Anybody else have any discussion around the policies? Okay, I'll open the floor to approve the policies as presented, eliminating,
Excluding KJ.
excluding
Yeah.
KJ.
I'll make a motion to approve policies, these policy updates as presented, excluding policy KJ.
We have a motion, we need a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. All right. Motion carries. The next item is to approve the revisions to the Student Code of Conduct. This policy reference is BFC. Ms. Graham, do you have any? thing?
I can kind of review this really quickly for you all. Mr. Dotson led the admin team in a discussion kind of like, hey, we've had this revised code of conduct for the year. What didn't work this year? Or where do we think we need to kind of, honestly, everything's about tightening up and giving principals more of the ability to suspend or do something more. Nothing got looser, it tightened more. I can read through them quickly if you want, or kind of overview. It's in red on there. Like suspension to cite was added as a level 3 and a level 4 response. That's where we, instead of suspending a kid to their home, we very oftentimes feel like it's better to suspend them a couple of days to alternative ed, where they're under supervision, they're doing their homework and things like that, and their classwork. So that's added to level 3 and 4. Changes in both elementary and secondary, because the handbook is divided by elementary and secondary, but these changes apply to both. Category C on page 6, increased discipline to all levels for posting, distributing, displaying, and sharing material or literature that is libelous, including the electronic means to post such material, saying or writing either directly or through electronic communication, sexually suggestive comments, innuendos, propositions. Like, we just went all the way up because something could happen that is so severe that we need a severe consequence for it. Category D, page 6, add level 5 to alcohol possession and distribution, and on page 13 for secondary, add level 4 and 5 as well. Page 7 and page 14, add level 5 to bullying behavior, and then cross-reference it to category E, assault and battery, because there becomes a time where it's not bullying anymore, you are committing a crime, and that's assault and battery, so that's cross-referenced now. Add report to law enforcement, to tobacco, so we can have vapes checked for illegal substances. So we can, hand them over to C because they're putting illegal material in those vaping devices. Page 9 and 16, add a footnote to include illegal drugs found in vaping devices. Page 17, include consequences for vaping. So they're in red in the handbook. It's going to spell out the consequences for vaping. So like first offense, suspended to cite for a day and participate in an educational program. Second offense, student will be suspended to cite for 5 days and participate in an educational program with the help of like our SROs, the Sheriff's Department. Third offense, student will be suspended to cite for 10 days and recommended for long-term suspension. Enough's enough. So that's what we have. And then this kind of ties into this because the governor did issue the executive order on cell phones. Our plan, cell phone policy shows up in school handbooks because it's different for each grade levels. But our elementary, middle school, they're already off and away in lockers or in their backpacks turned off for the day. High school, currently, you cannot use them during instructional time. And then kids are currently allowed to have them in the hallway and lunchtime. So we'll start the year with that. It was suggested by Mr. Wingate. We'll do a committee of parents and teachers, admin, school board member, and talk about how we want to go from there in response. Right now, we're in line with the executive order. Our instruction time is protected, but we need to do a better job as well, making sure that students understand they must be off during instruction time. So.
And I also would like consistent enforcement, I guess is the right word, or accountability. And making sure each school is on the same page as well. One teacher says yes, the other teacher says no. We need to say yes or no. Like, not it be all over the place, so.
But those are.
That way, kids and families, they all have the consistent message, right? So they know what the expectation is, and I firmly believe that if we set this expectation for kids, then they'll rise to it. So we might have some stumbling, growing pains to get there, but it'll be okay.
And those are the changes.
If we only
a few.
use the cell phones for good stuff,
We wish.
then we'd be okay, but they're not being used for good stuff. Okay. So we need a motion to approve those revisions. I'll open the floor for that motion.
I make a motion to adopt the revisions as presented.
We have a motion, we need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would like to say I do like the improvements to the code of conduct. For one thing, I feel for the teachers when they're here to teach and they have to become disciplinarians, and that's got to be frustrating. So I think we need to, if having an issue, get them out of the way so the teacher can do what they need to do to teach the rest of the students. So I'm on board.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. You have a student code of conduct. And the next agenda item is our board meeting schedule.
So
Yay.
there's something a little different on there this time, and that is a proposal that we do the school visits all in one day. Because it's hard for everyone to make it so many different days. And those are two suggestions out there right now, kind of in the middle of when you used to come before. We'll call this going off of Mr. Mark's schedule, how he likes to come in one day. So, and that worked well. So if everyone could talk about it and maybe decide if we could come all in one day, we would provide lunch. We'd eat lunch in a school, which would be awesome.
was my next question.
We're suggesting October 24th and April 10th. And kind of do an 8:30 start and go see everybody. If that would be something that would be possible, if y'all think.
Who recommended this?
Well, it worked well for one board member, so
It's
we were
okay with
thinking
me.
it might work well
It's
for
okay
others.
with me. I'm fine with it.
I did not recommend it, but I will say, having a day where you can go through every building and see an entire culture of a community at one time and see how the development goes through, what lunch periods are like for different ones, and sometimes you might get stuck at a school talking to a group of teachers that might have a common planning period, it's very advantageous. And for me, the only reason it worked was because it was days that I could take off from my teaching career to come here and be part of Madison's. But I did not recommend it, but I will say it is very effective.
I agree. Do these dates align with your spring break and a day off? Because it doesn't align with mine.
In true teacher fashion, I will say I have not looked at my current schedule until like it gets closer to August beginning.
I probably have more flexibility, though. I can take off.
And we can come back to those two dates. It's just kind of a suggestion on if a day would work for you all.
I could say personally, like, as long as I have an advance notice to cancel the day, then it's a lot easier. So if, like, the days are going to be set, I can cancel them now. But if we move it, that's when I have problems personally.
I think my spring break aligns with Easter this year, yeah.
Okay. And you can bring dates next time, like if we do get started with these, what's on here, and then if you want to
can
bring
always
some dates.
modify.
Exactly.
We can always modify.
And then Mr. Wingate will be here as well to look at the dates.
Hop in whenever.
Or just come with you.
That's fun. I think it's a great idea. Sure beats the heck out of taking off 6 other days or half days or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's a lot for you all to schedule that way.
Okey doke. Anything else? All righty. I will open the floor to approve the school board meeting schedule.
Motion to approve school board meeting schedule for 2024-25 as presented.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Bring your dates, please. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any noes? Motion carries. All right, we are now to reports from school board members.
Nothing to report, but the amount of work behind the scenes on the facilities and stuff getting done is, I'm happy with it. I like it. And Dr. Timmons he's got a hold of the reins. I really appreciate all the work that he's doing, so. Yeah, that's it.
I don't have a whole lot to report other than the Madison County Fair starts Wednesday at 4 o'clock. We have almost 200 animals at this fair this year. So we have expanded and exploded with kids interested in 4-H and FFA. and it does my heart good. I love this. I live for this week. This is so exciting. I left the fairgrounds and came to this meeting. And it is just an amazing week. These kids work hard. They raise animals, and these animals are treated like king and queens. They stand in front of fans all day long, and they get fresh water 2 and 3 times a day, and they get really expensive food. So I encourage you to come out and watch the kids show their animals and have a good time and see the barn. And of course, Friday night is the sale. If you would like to come, please come. We have dinner at 5:30. I can get you a dinner ticket if you would like to be there. And the sale is pretty phenomenal to watch. And so I encourage everybody to come and hang out and ask kids questions, and they will tell you whatever you want to know about those animals because they've raised them. And so, so come on out and see us. We're all hot and sweaty and stink together, but it's all good stuff. So come on out and ask the kids a bunch of questions, and they will give you answers. That's all I got.
I have nothing to report, other than I think Madison County Athletics has got some cool stuff coming up. There was so many kids involved in Little League All-Star games and groupings, I mean, all over the place. And it was tremendous to see the amount of children that were involved in all of our youth sports this year. And that's great hopes for the future of Madison County Athletics and what's coming through that. And I know that Mr. Eanes has been a big part of that as well, so that's been tremendously the amount of people that work in the school system working in our youth to make sure they've got something to do, and that's really cool. But that's it.
I'm just going to add, too, that on August 10th, we have our back-to-school carnival over at the Farmer's Lot, too, and that should be really cool. I pretend to be part of the team that's putting it together, but I can't seem to make it to a meeting to save my life. But like, we have a tremendous team of teachers and everything that are putting together some really cool things for the kids. And so if you guys get an opportunity to come check out that on August 10th, 9 to 12? And yeah, so I strongly encourage that as well.
Only one thing to report, and that is they have 2 interviews, I think, for the high school government position, but otherwise we are fully staffed for the year.
That is unheard of in this season that we are in education. So my mic is off. That is unheard of. So congratulations, good job. It's something to be proud of. All right,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
we are adjourned. Thank you all. Welcome, Lisa.